There are three very difficult problems to be solved by the current chatbot platform. One is triggering intent without having entity. The second is a single sentence that should invoke more than one intent. And the third is hopping between context. So John, how do we handle these problems on our platform?
Yeah, so basically the difference between our chatbot platform and all the others is that we don't go by intent and entity by entity. We have an ontology. You see in the middle column here, so month is an entity, January is a month. So this is a simple ontology. So we give that to our engine and we form canonical structures with it. And when we do that, we can reason with it. And when we have a question that we understand, we don't have to define that actual question other than having the things which it refers to be resolved here in this third panel here.
All right, then let's start the demo. The first question we want to ask is, what is my September payment bill? Which sounds very obvious.
Okay, so this one, yes, is something that would be able to be handled by pretty much any chatbot platform. There's a clear entity, the payment of bill, and then there is the attribute September. We have that as an intent, and you can probably easily answer that from any chatbot. But now,
So what if there is no entity? How do we address triggering intent without having entity? If we ask, for example, what about October?
right, so yes, this is something that we can do because even though there is no entity of payment or bill, we know that October is a month and that normally months are associated with payments. So therefore, we still have the payment still in context here. And so when we do, what about October? We know that we're talking about the October payment.
Got it. Can we ask in any other ways?
Yeah, you know what? As a chatbot, we want to be able to handle something like this, right? Just November. Right. So we know that we're still talking about payments. That's still in the session context. So therefore, when we just do November, we get the correct answer.
Awesome. Then let's move on to our second problem, which is a single sentence that invokes more than one intent. We could start by asking the question, I cannot use my phone. What is my payment bill?
Yes. So in a regular chatbot platform, when we try to invoke two intents at the same time, they don't do that very well. They can't handle it. What you can do then is try to stuff this all into one intent, but that's very difficult and pretty unexpected what you're going to get. Here, what we do is we syntactically know that this phrase is separate from this phrase and that each one has its own meaning. So we have a choice between these two kind of resolutions for these two questions.
Okay, then let's go with the payment context and ask the question, June payment.
Right, so again, we have June and payment. So therefore, we have a month and an entity. So we know that we're going down the path of the payment bill instead of the phone.
Okay. Then from there, I guess we can go on to our third problem, which is hopping between contexts. What happens if we ask a troubleshooting question like, my battery is dead?
Okay, so we have for this simple resolution for a dead battery. Right? Dead battery needs to connect the charger. So now we've hopped from the payment context to the phone context. Okay, so therefore, we're going to try to go again to the payment context. Right? Let's just go for July. Note that we're not saying payment. But you see that we keep the session context the same as payment. So therefore, we just have to refer to July, and we know that we're talking about July's payment. Now, the big thing about this is that other chatbot platforms, other chatbots, if you abandon one dialog flow and go to another, when you go back to it, all that information is lost, and we don't do it that way. So therefore, we keep everything that is in the session still in memory, we can hop from context to context and be perfectly fine.
Got it. That sounds great. So, okay, now let's clear the memory and show how it can handle adaptive learning and contextualization again.
Okay, note now that we have cleared the memory of all these session contexts. So we don't know we're in the payment context. And then we're going to ask the question, what is my January? Right, so here we don't specify an entity at all. And this is pretty much impossible for anything other than us to handle. Okay, so as we said before, when we have a month, we normally associate it with a payment. So we're making the inference, do you mean payment of January? And we're just going to reply yes, conversationally. Right, so two things have happened here. First, we get the correct answer, right? January payment is X1. And then we also have payment put into context. So therefore, when we go just February, right, so the payment context is now there. And when we just specify a month, we get that specific month payment.
Got it. What if we ask, give me April's balance?
Okay, so this is adaptive learning at work. We don't know what a balance is. That's not part of the ontology, but we know that it looks like the same thing that the payment behaves as. So therefore, we're going to ask the inference, is balance a payment? So when we go yes, okay, first, of course, we have the correct answer, the April payment. And now, balance is actually added to our ontology. So therefore, when we ask, I want May's balance, right? So if it were not in the ontology, we would ask again, is balance a payment? But let's see. We have this instead. We have balance as part of the ontology, so we know we're talking about payment. So we get the correct answer. May payment is X5.
Awesome.
Thank you.